My wife said, marriage is just one part of my life, not my whole identity. So I stopped making her my whole life. And somehow, that's when she wanted me back. My name's Aaron. I'm 37. My wife, Lena, is 34. We've been married 7 years, together for nearly 10. No kids, by choice. I used to think we were one of those quietly solid couples. No big fights, no chaos, just stability. But if you asked me now what broke us, I'd say it wasn't cheating, or money, or even boredom. It was philosophy. Lena's always been independent. When we met, that's what I loved about her. She had her own career, her own friends, her own apartment that looked like an art exhibit. She made me feel like part of her life, not her whole life, and that balance felt healthy. But over the years, something shifted. What used to be independence turned into detachment. What used to be boundaries started feeling like walls. I didn't notice it right away. It crept in quietly. Date nights started getting rescheduled. Weekend plans turned into maybe later. She'd say, I just need some time to myself, okay? You're too available. It's not healthy. And I try to understand. Because every self-help podcast and every therapist in the world says space is good. But space, when it's only one person asking for it, starts feeling a lot like distance. One night, about a year ago, we were sitting on the couch after dinner, half watching some Netflix show, half scrolling on our phones, when she said it, calmly, like she was reading a weather forecast. Aaron, marriage is just one part of my life. It can't be my entire identity. I nodded, because on paper, that sounded reasonable. Of course, I said. I don't want to smother you. Good, she said, because I feel like I've been losing me. I need to put myself first for a while. Again, I agreed. But later that night, while brushing my teeth, I looked in the mirror and asked myself a question I couldn't answer. What exactly am I supposed to do while she's finding herself? At first, I did what supportive husbands are supposed to do. I encouraged her hobbies, yoga, painting, solo trips with friends. I stopped suggesting plans. Stopped expecting texts when she went out. If she wanted autonomy, I'd give her autonomy. So I started filling my own time too. Signed up for a woodworking class. Reconnected with old friends from college. Started going to the gym more consistently. At first, she seemed relieved, like my new schedule validated her own. Then, about a month later, the comments started. You've been out a lot lately. You didn't tell me you had plans tonight. You didn't wait for me to watch that show. I reminded her, gently, that she'd asked for space. She frowned and said, I didn't mean for us to become strangers, Aaron. That was the first time I realized she didn't want balance. She wanted control of the distance. By spring, our lives were running parallel. We slept in the same bed, but our days barely overlapped. Sometimes, when she'd get home late, she'd say, It's nice that you don't need me all the time. And I'd smile, even though what I wanted to say was, You stopped being around enough for me to need you. But then something shifted again. She started getting restless, checking my calendar, asking where I was going, who I was meeting. Once she said, It's like you don't even care if I'm around. And I replied, You told me to live my own life, Lena. I just finally listened. She went silent for a full minute, then said quietly, I didn't think you'd actually do it. By summer, I noticed something new, resentment. Not from me, from her. She'd sigh when I left the house, scroll through my messages when she thought I wasn't looking, start small arguments about nothing. One night, she said it outright. You're too comfortable being without me. And that's when I realized she didn't want partnership. She wanted dependence that looked like freedom. She wanted to decide when I was too close and when I was too far. I stopped fighting it, stopped defending myself, just started observing. Because sometimes the best way to understand someone is to stop explaining yourself long enough to let them talk. Then, one night in early autumn, it all came to a head. She came home late, again, from what she called a networking dinner. I was at my desk finishing up some freelance work. She looked at me for a long time, then asked, Are you happy? I think so, I said honestly. I've been feeling balanced. She nodded slowly, eyes narrowing just a little. Balanced, she repeated. That's interesting. I'm not. Then she went to bed. The next morning, she wasn't there. Just a note on the counter. I need to think. Don't contact me for a while. No, love you. No, I'll be back. Just absence. I didn't chase her. I didn't call. Because for once, I believed her. She wanted space. And this time, I gave her all of it. 2 weeks later, I found out through mutual friends that she'd been staying with a coworker, just temporarily. I didn't even feel jealous. Just done. When you spend months being told you're too much, and then realize you were actually not enough to be missed, the grief burns out differently. Quietly. Completely. I didn't file for divorce right away. I just started living the life she said she wanted me to have, one where I didn't orbit anyone. I filled my house with my things, not our things. I traveled, worked, learned to cook for one. And the strangest thing happened. For the first time in years, I wasn't lonely. It's been almost 3 months since Lena left. No calls, no texts, no updates. At first, I kept expecting something, an apology, an explanation, anything. But silence has a way of teaching you acceptance faster than closure ever could. By the second month, I'd stopped checking my phone at night. By the third, I stopped imagining what I'd say if she came back. Because when someone chooses distance, you eventually realize the only power you have left is whether or not you wait for them. I chose not to. Then, one Sunday morning, she came back. I was in the kitchen, making coffee, when I heard the knock. It wasn't hesitant. It was the kind of knock people use when they think they still belong. When I opened the door, she stood there holding a paper bag and wearing that same wool coat I'd once bought her for a trip she never took. Her first words weren't "Hi" or "I missed you." They were, "You look different." I smiled a little. "You said I should live my own life." I took it seriously. She looked around the apartment. Everything had changed. New plants, new photos, the living room rearranged. It didn't look like our home anymore. It looked like mine. She put the bag down on the counter, croissants, from the same bakery we used to go to on Sundays. A peace offering disguised as nostalgia. "I thought we could talk," she said. I nodded. "We can talk." We sat down at the table, and for a few moments, neither of us spoke. Then she started, her voice soft but tense. "I didn't expect you to just move on like that. You told me to live my own life?" I said again. "I didn't mean without me, Aaron. That's not how living works, Lena. You don't get to set the radius and expect someone to wait in orbit." She looked away, eyes glassy. "I thought you'd fight for me." That hit me in a strange way, not with guilt, but with clarity. "I did fight for you," I said. "For years. I fought by being patient, by shrinking my needs, by respecting every time you asked for space. But fighting for you started to mean losing myself. And I got tired of losing." She went silent. You could tell she wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. "You don't even sound angry," she finally said. I admitted. Then I got better. She started crying then. Quiet, careful tears, the kind people cry when they realize the apology came too late. "I didn't think you'd stop loving me." "I didn't stop," I said. "I just stopped waiting for love to feel like punishment." She reached across the table, touching my hand. It used to make my chest ache when she did that. Now it just felt foreign. "Can we try again?" she asked softly. I looked at her for a long moment. This was the part of the movie where the couple reconciles, the music swells, the audience exhales. But life isn't a movie. It's quieter, more complicated. "You wanted a life that didn't revolve around us," I said. "You found it. I don't want to take that away from you." Her lip trembled. "So that's it. That's peace," I said. She stayed for maybe 15 more minutes, talking about her new apartment, her job, the classes she was taking. I listened, nodded, and smiled when appropriate. It felt like catching up with an old classmate, not a wife. When she finally stood to leave, she said, "You really are happier, aren't you?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "Because for the first time, I'm living my life, not waiting for permission to have one." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and said the most honest thing she'd said in years. "I thought freedom meant not needing anyone. Turns out it just meant not knowing who I was when no one was watching." Then she left. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from her since. She's still living her version of freedom, I guess. And I'm living mine. The difference is, I finally understand what that word means. Freedom isn't distance. It's the ability to be close without disappearing. And love? Love isn't about losing yourself to prove devotion. It's about being whole and choosing to share that wholeness with someone else. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about her. Not the fights, not the emptiness, the small things. Her laugh, the way she used to hum when she cooked. Then I smile, close my eyes, and let it fade. Because not every ending needs to be tragic. Some just need to be true. Update 1. It's been almost a year since Lena left. Long enough for everything to stop feeling raw and to start feeling distant. like something that happened to a different version of me. My days now are simple. Work, coffee, gym, a few close friends. Sometimes weekends at my brother's place, helping him fix up his old car. There's no grand transformation story, no new love or revenge glow up. Just quiet, consistent peace. Last Sunday, I got a message. I'd just come back from a run, still sweaty, when my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in nearly a year. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity, that small, human weakness, won. It was from Lena. Hey, I heard you moved to the new office. Congrats. I was near our old neighborhood today and thought of you. You seemed happy when I last saw you. I hope that's still true. That was it. No apology. No hidden question. Just that. I stood there for a while, staring at the screen. For the first time, her message didn't send my chest into that old, familiar ache. There was no pull, no what if. Just recognition. I typed a few words back, then deleted them, then wrote something else. I am. Thank you. I hope you are too. Simple, polite, real. And then, for the first time in this entire story, I archived the chat. Not out of anger, not out of pettiness, out of completion. That night, I thought about how strange it is, the way some people teach you your biggest lessons by leaving. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't evil. She was just searching for a self she didn't know how to find within love. And me? I learned that loving someone doesn't mean waiting around while they figure out who they want to be, especially if they forget that you're someone too. I started dating again recently. A woman named June, a photographer. She's grounded, quiet, curious. When we first started seeing each other, I told her up front, I've been married before. It ended when we both stopped showing up. She smiled and said, then let's make sure we keep showing up. And we do. Not perfectly, not romantically all the time, but consistently. And that, I've learned, is what real love sounds like. Not fireworks, but steady footsteps. Sometimes, people message me privately about my original post, the one about Lena saying she didn't want our marriage to define her. They tell me they're living the same story. One woman wrote, my husband says he needs space, but he still gets angry when I don't wait for him. I didn't know that had a name until I read your post. It's strange, comforting, and a little sad, realizing how many people are quietly loving ghosts of partners who only want to exist part-time. If my story helps even one of them understand that love without presence is just proximity, I guess that's worth something. I don't think Lena's message was about reconciliation. I think it was about acknowledgement. A soft I see now. A small olive branch from someone who finally realized what space costs when you fill it with silence. I didn't need it, but it was nice to know it came. A year ago, I thought space was the thing that killed us. Now I understand it was the thing that saved me. Because sometimes, when you stop chasing someone else's definition of freedom, you finally start living your own. So yeah, she texted. I replied. And that was that. No grand ending. No bitterness. Just peace. And maybe that's the best kind of closure you can get. Final update. It's been almost exactly a year since everything ended. Since she left, since I stopped waiting, since I learned that sometimes space isn't distance, it's direction. And I mean it when I say this. I'm okay. Not pretending, not performing, actually okay. I live alone now in a smaller apartment. Nothing fancy, just a space that feels like mine. Books on the shelves I actually read, dishes I actually wash, plants that somehow haven't died. My days have rhythm again. Quiet mornings, long walks to work, dinners with people who don't need an audience to exist. It's a simple life, but it's real. I used to think being alone was proof that I'd failed. Now I see it's proof that I stopped losing myself trying to make someone else stay. About 2 months ago, I ran into Lena by accident. It was in a grocery store, the kind of coincidence that feels scripted. She was in the produce section, holding a bag of apples, and I almost didn't recognize her. Not because she looked bad, she didn't, but because she looked different, softer, quieter. We talked for a few minutes. Small talk, jobs, places, mutual friends. No bitterness, no tension. At one point, she smiled and said, you really seem at peace. I said, I am. And for the first time in years, I wasn't saying it to convince myself. Before we said goodbye, she hesitated and asked, do you ever think about us? I told her the truth. Sometimes, but not with regret. I think about who we were and what we taught each other. You showed me how important it is to stay whole. And I guess I showed you what happens when someone finally does. She nodded, smiled sadly, and said, You did. Then she walked away. No dramatic pauses, no looks back. Just two people who used to love each other passing through the same aisle, both finally on their way somewhere else. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights flicker through the fog. I thought about how much energy we spend trying to make love look perfect, and how freeing it feels to realize it doesn't have to. It just has to be honest, even when honesty means ending it. I think, in her own way, she did love me. But she loved the version of me that waited. And I love the version of me that finally stopped. People online still sometimes find my old post, the one that started this whole story. Every few months someone comments, "Did she ever come back? Did you forgive her? Did you find someone new?" The answers are yes, yes, and maybe someday. But that's not the point anymore. The point is, I'm whole again. And that wholeness doesn't depend on anyone else. A friend once told me, peace isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of self. I didn't get it then. Now I do. So if you're reading this, and you're in that same space, the one where love feels more like waiting than living, stop waiting. Start breathing again. The people meant to stay will meet you halfway. The ones who don't, were never walking toward you to begin with. Lena once said, marriage is just one part of my life, not my entire identity. She was right. And now I finally understand. Neither was she mine.